Okay, so we're going to talk about if you know, you know. Have you heard this phrase? It's really popular right now. Oh, if you know, you know. Well, there is so much truth to that. Now, so what that means, if you know, you know, it means if you are aware of something, if you've been exposed to it, if you've experienced it, then you understand what I'm talking about. For example, there was a post a few weeks ago that referenced two different Walmarts in a town and the streets that they were on. Now, unless you have lived in that town or go to that town to go to Walmart, then you probably don't understand. You don't know. But if you know, if you've been to either of those Walmarts or know about both of the Walmarts in that town, then you know. So, why am I talking about if you know, you know? Because we can't change what we aren't aware of. And until we are aware of something, it just basically exists in life. So, I feel like I'm a pretty aware person. However, recently something came to me and I had this realization, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, how did I not see this sooner? And I was kicking myself and really beating myself up for not seeing. Basically, it was a personality in someone or a behavior, and it just had never like dawned on me before that this person was behaving the way that they are. I don't want to give a lot of information, but the point being, I'd been exposed to it numerous times and didn't recognize it until all of a sudden. But it doesn't do any good for me to beat myself up about the fact that I didn't recognize it. I didn't know before. Now I do. So now I need to do something about it. Now I need to set boundaries with the person when I recognize this behavior, because now it's in my awareness. You can't change what you aren't aware of. And once you are aware, that's when change can take place. We need to have self awareness just as much, if not more, than awareness that we have of other people. We have to really be able to look at ourselves because that's where change happens. Change happens with you. It happens with me, and that means we start with self. You can try to change another person. You can pray for another person. You can beg God to change somebody. You can beg the person to change. We can do all of these things. You can try and manipulate someone and, get them to do what you want them to do. But ultimately, they are in control of themselves. Whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, whatever, they are in control of themselves and you are in control of you. So you change what you can change, because sometimes it takes us reframing how we look at a situation or look at a person when we take into account that we can expect them to change and they don't. Then we have to either say, okay, I'm backing away from this job, from this relationship, from this toxic person, or I'm going to shift how I look at things. Now, as a Christian, there could be a situation where you are seeing that someone probably needs to change. You can pray for that person. By all means, pray for that person. But you also need to be working on yourself and asking God to, bring it to light what you could be doing differently. How could you look at this person with more compassion or more empathy? Or maybe, God, how could I put more boundaries between this person and myself until they choose to change, or until, they allow God to soften their heart? Whatever you do, don't beat yourself up for being in a situation where maybe you are treated wrong or taken for granted or anything like that, because that can happen in work relationships, personal relationships. But the fact of the matter is, you didn't know till you knew. And it's once you know and once you see it and realize what's going on, then you can do something about it. You can't go back in time. There's no point in kicking yourself in the rear for making a bad choice or believing someone Because we can only believe someone for what they say. It's when they show us differently, when words and actions don't align, that's when we can start to question and go like, hey, like something's up here. So step back, take a look at yourself, at relationships, work relationships, colleagues, friends, significant others, spouses, family members, all those types of things, and ask yourself what you can do differently, how you can see them differently, and just ask God, is there something I need to see in this situation? And trust Him to guide you to the right answers. This is Kelly Renee Baker, the Queen Bee, reminding you to be high on life and remember that you can defeat your greatest opponent. We'll see you tomorrow.